text-to-voice synthesis provided by Vidnami. Remember, the Pope owns both. January 7, 2021 by Anna von Reitz. We are witnessing the battle between two giant commercial corporations, both in the business of providing governmental services. The U.S., Inc. is a municipal Holy Roman Empire corporation operated by EU financiers and governments, while the USA, Inc. is operated mainly by British and British Commonwealth Territorial interests. But at the end of the day, both these corporations are owned and operated by the Pope in his role as the Roman Pontiff. This is because the British monarchs have owed the Pope their claim to office on the land since the early 1200s. They are the overseers of his Commonwealth properties, and occupy the chair of the estates, because they cannot otherwise occupy the throne. As I have told you before, and this is admitted, proven fact, decided by the British courts, that QEII broke her coronation oath within 3 days of taking it, abdicated the throne, and sat down on the chair of the estates instead. As a result, she isn't really Queen of England. Or anything else. So the Pope and the EU moguls operate the US, Inc. And the Pope and the Queen operate the USA, Inc. Notice that the Pope is the common denominator. We are stuck in the middle of the self-serving and self-perpetuated storm as these corporations clash and accuse each other like Punch and Judy. The leaders of the US, Inc. The members of the U.S. Congress, attempt to undermine the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the USA, Inc. and millions of Americans are sucked into this drama, which is nothing but a smokescreen. What is really going on? The assets backing the U.S. Treasury bonds and the Federal Reserve notes are unconscionable contracts foisted off on babies. If the contracts are void for fraud, and they are, then the bonds are worthless and so are the notes. So Francis turns to his insurers, the big banks and EU governments, and says, basically, we need a new asset base to prop these U.S. securities up, or the whole thing goes kablooey. They respond with this wild scheme to use patented fragments of mRNA injected via vaccination to gin up a new and even more outrageous false claim in commerce. They will try to recapture their livestock by maintaining that they have recreated us as genetically modified organisms and now own us via patent. Right. Let's just shove a very large needle where it belongs. Meantime, Donald Trump and Steven Mnuchin and their insurer, BlackRock, Inc., decide to play a different game. They will use the Exchange Stabilization Fund, a giant commodity rigging fund that rigs currency supplies, to buy up actual assets of all kinds all over the world and use this as a new asset base. They will use foreign currencies, not USA dollars, to do this. This means that the foreign currencies are flooding the international markets and these currencies are being inflated and debased in the process. Remember how Mr. Obama promoted the counterfeiting of Federal Reserve notes on a worldwide basis and how that reduced their value? Well, this is now, in effect, doing the same thing to all the European currencies, and the EU understandably doesn't like it very much. Hence, the antipathy of the EU-controlled US Congress versus the USA President. And the Queen can't support him, even if she wanted to, because after all, she works for the Pope. This is why Donald Trump seems so isolated, despite his great popularity with millions of people, and why those millions of people must continue to support him and to bear down on the culprits responsible for all this, the Pope and his minions. Don't be distracted. Don't be fooled by the master magicians. You can now see how this works and why the problem exists. The Pope and the EU want to continue to exploit others. They want to ride on our backs, and failing that, they want to ride on Chinese backs, but in no case do they want to even begin paying their debts, earn their keep, or set their slaves free. You can now see why they want a vapid crook like Joe Biden to deal with. And why EU governments and officers and members of the CIA were involved in rigging the 2020 elections.